All right. All right, live on Facebook. Here we go. Broadcasting.
Woo!
All right. The copy hooker. It's the copy hooker, Everte Farnell. How you doing, brother? Hey guys, I got Everte Farnell here today. He is known as the heavyweight hooker. All right, in copywriting, guys. Currently, I got Everte Farnell here today. He is known as he's written heavyweight hooker. Right? He's written for guys like Agora Publishing, which is one of the $700 million giants out there in the marketplace. He's currently published a newsletter called the Hustlers, Gamblers, and Entrepreneurs, which take influence techniques that you would normally see with a con artist, and he helps people ethically apply them to their bottom lines in their businesses. In the spare time, you can catch him out on the MMA mat, wrestling around, torturing little kids. What's up, brother? Oh, we're advertising for Frank Kern today. I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
We're both Frank Kern Inner Circle members.
That's everettfarnell.com/Frank KIC.
Oh, man. I want to get my mug, Frank.
So what's going on? Yeah, it's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on the show.
You're welcome,
always have a good time when we get together.
Absolutely. I got to watch the woo-woo stuff, so I got to watch you.
I know, man. Don't be laying the woo-woo on me, okay? I got all my fucked up stuff, like, just where I want it. I don't need you going in. It's like somebody pinching your nose. They mess up your boogers and you can't breathe.
No, it's definitely, that stuff comes out everywhere. Oh man. So here's the thing, guys, is Everte and I got a chance to meet over, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years now?
Something like that, year and a half, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me with Everte, his unique ability to help pull the hooks out. We're talking about being a hooker. He's great at throwing that jab. He used to actually be in the boxing side doing the MMA stuff. And what he does with words is he basically helps you really connect with your audience so they get hooked into reading your stuff. Let me give an example of this. You ever stop at the tabloid section? Those people people like Everte get paid like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 just to write the headline that goes on to the tabloid for like People magazine, right? And what Everett's really good at is helping write those types of hook to get you to stop exactly what you're doing in your tracks. Be like, Angelina does it again. Well, crap, what did Angelina do, right? So now all of a sudden you want to stop and read that. Right. So was that described pretty well, Everte?
It does. I don't do work in the magazine industry, but you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the kind of thing. It's just there's really a trend among a lot of direct response, smaller direct response places, that they're just focusing strictly on benefit hooks. And a benefit hook is, you'll recognize it, how to double your sales in a week, how to get 1 cent clicks, it's just the same old, tired, ridiculous nonsense that's been going on forever. Now you compare that to John Carlton's hook, secrets of a one-legged golfer, right? Now, right? That just grabs your attention, especially if you're a golfer. One-legged golfer, what the hell is that? And you go back to throughout history of direct response, you're going to find a lot of really great, I think it's 9 billion, so the $9 billion man, Ted Nicholas, years ago did a magazine ad, and the ad said, what was it? It was based around how not to pay taxes, right? How to get away with not paying taxes. Well, of course, business people and wealthy people were very interested in that. So they read the ad, and the ad is about buy this book to learn how to not pay taxes. Well, the way to not pay tax, it was his book about incorporating, right? So the way to not pay taxes is to incorporate and take advantage of all the tax write-offs available to corporations. But the book had nothing to do with taxes. It just had to do with incorporating. But the hook was that you could avoid paying taxes. So you see there's too much, I call it lazy, but unfortunately it might not be lazy. It might be people who don't know their history, but there's too much stuff going on where people are using weak and tired hooks that are easily overlooked. You need to get something. I heard it described one time that your headline, and in my case we're talking about a hook, so we're talking about the headline, the subhead, and the first few paragraphs need to reach off the page or off the computer screen, as it were, and grab hold of your prospect's eyeballs and refuse to allow them to move until they've gotten into your letter, until they've read and satisfied the need to, that itch that your hook created. So I hope I didn't blather on too much there, but that's basically the gist of it.
No, absolutely. So in other words, you are stopping people in their tracks, so you get them to then want to learn more. Because one of the things I've seen a lot of times with business owners, and I'm guilty of this myself, is we get so wrapped up in our baby, right? And it's like, and then we forget that we got to give this baby away. And that's the whole point, right? You don't make a business and stuff like that, a product service, because you just want to keep it, right? You got to give the baby away.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I've seen a lot of times people, we get so wrapped into that side of things that they forget the most important part is 80% of your business needs to be, and close to 90 to 97% of your business should be about the marketing, advertising, and getting the hook on what's going to get somebody to pick up that baby over somebody else's baby.
Exactly. There's two things you got to remember. Number one, that having a superior product is in no way an advantage in the marketplace until after the sale is made, right? So having a great product work is wonderful after the sale is made, but prior to the sale being made, it doesn't matter one bit, because nobody has an opportunity. Everybody says we have the best product, right? So would you say that you have to focus on marketing and sales? I'd say sales and marketing, revenue generating portions of your business. I agree 100%. 97 might be too much. 80 is too little. No doubt about it. But the second thing is that here is the really important thing. You said business owners get wrapped up in their little baby, and they do. And here's the thing you've got to realize. And it's, it comes as a shock to so many business owners, and they even get offended sometimes when I say it, but here's the absolute truth. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your thing. They care about their things. And if you're going to tell them, you're going to say the exact same thing that everybody in the marketplace says, the exact same way everybody in the marketplace says it, nobody's going to give a shit. Nobody's going to pay attention. You're just going to fade away into, you're just going to fade away into the masses of failed businesses that have come and gone and come and gone and come and gone. Businesses don't fail. It's funny because you hear people say, well, small business fails because it's undercapitalized. And then you hear a guy like Tony Robbins say, small businesses fail because of a lack of, not because of a lack of resources, it's because of a lack of resourcefulness. I got news for you. Small businesses fail for one reason and one reason only, because they don't sell enough shit. Whatever their shit is, they don't sell enough of it. Everything else can be figured out. Gary Halbert had it right. At least in a business context, and oftentimes in a personal context, the solution to all of life's problems is a great sales letter. If you have a great sales letter, and it's, and you can mail out 100 pieces of the sales letter and spend $100 to $150, and that brings in $1,000 in revenue, and you can just keep doing that, nothing else matters. I mean, you can figure out all the other stuff, right? But sale, you got to get the sale, and the only way to get the sale is to get attention. So that's where people fall down. They don't realize that attention. They don't get
the hook.
Right.
They think, oh, I'll just worry about that later. That's actually the biggest thing, is to get somebody's initial attention. And then once you have their attention, is the right salesmanship and print. And guys, if you have questions right now, I know we're live on Facebook and we have a lot of people that are jumping on right now. If you guys have questions about writing hooks or copy and stuff like that, go ahead and post them below, and we'll get around to answering those. I'll be monitoring to that as Everett's talking right now. Again, Frank Kern, we're here for you. So just want to,
I drink out of this mug every day, not because it says Kern Inner Circle on it. I don't care about that, but because it's massive. It's just great. Like, this is like 4 cups of coffee. Frank saves me. When he sent this to me, he saves me like 15 trips to my kitchen every morning. It's fabulous.
Another reason to join Frank's Kern's Inner Circle. So I know, I mean, obviously you just came from somewhere. So is it being an entrepreneur? One of the big questions I always ask everybody is, when did the entrepreneur career, what's that first thing you remember around money where you started your business? And how old were you? Was it lemonade stand? What were you doing?
Youngest, I was probably in 4th grade, and I was buying pencils or candy or something. It was candy, and reselling it until the school teachers got their little shriveled up noses out of joint and got mad at me for selling candy to my friends. But that was probably my first venture into it. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a bug all my life. There's 2 things. There's 2 overriding motivations for me. One, I've just one has reasserted itself. It was always there, but it's kind of reasserted itself recently. But the other one is, I don't like being told what to do. Like, and I know it's a character flaw. I tell people, look, I know it's a character flaw, but I have this massive aversion to people giving me orders of any kind. Probably was not a good idea for me to join the Army. It didn't work. It's just, and it doesn't matter how big. Eventually, it doesn't matter even if I agree. Like, even if I say, well, you got to be to work at 9. Okay, no problem. I'll show up work at 9. But eventually, I'm going to want to not get out of bed, or I'm going to have something to do, and I'm not going to be able to show up at work at 9. And the fact that I got to call and get permission for that just twists my guts. It just is what it is. It has not served me well. It is not an impulse that has served me well in many regards throughout my life, but that's the truth. So that's really where let's talk
about that for a second, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs.
Oh shit! Don't go woo wooing me now. I told you I got my shit all fixed. I got it all in line.
So we're made. I say this all the time about half the entrepreneurs I work with is they have that same thing. I know I have that same thing. It's almost like keeping the wolf away from the door, right?
Right.
In the sense of, like, they don't want to listen to somebody else. That's why they're doing their own thing, right? That's why they're doing. But a lot of times is an entrepreneur is just crazy enough to say, hey, I'm just going to go out on my own and create some of value. And then you have to then connect with the audience that's going to be out there. And then when you connect with the audience, then they have to get out their wallet, right? Where Matt kind of taught us the famous phrase of, like, hey, people don't lie with their wallet, right? They're going to get out and give you some kind of money for a transfer of knowledge or a product or service or something. So Matt, that's a blatant plug for you, buddy. So basically you help people really take that stuff they've actually created and transfer that over to somebody that's over here that has a wallet and then gives them money. I mean, that's really your gift when it comes down to it.
Right. Yeah. That's what I do. Is I have, through hard fought experience, in real businesses myself, and also in service businesses. And when I say real businesses, I mean like bricks and mortar businesses.
So background, when you started out, I know you weren't selling candy your whole life, right?
I wish I was.
It's a lot easier, right? You gave that up. But you went into the construction business. You were very successful in the construction business. Talk about what happened and how that business blew up for you.
Well, I got started in the business around, I can't believe it's been 15 years ago, but my daughter will be 15 in a few weeks. And she was a baby when I first got started, a few months old. So it's been about 15 years ago I got started because a friend of mine had gotten into a business where he was doing remediations for people's attics. So I was selling advertising or something, and he knew I was a great salesman. And he also didn't want to handle the nuts and bolts of the business. So he hired me to come to work for him, and we ended up becoming business partners in that business. Now to paraphrase horse people. They all go lame, and as always happens eventually, our business partnership dissolved, and I went out on my own and started my own company doing the same thing. And I built that company. I mean, I started all of my equity. I hadn't taken any money out of, I took enough money to survive out of the animal remediation business that I built with Alex, but I didn't take any equity out.
What got you started into creating a business in the first place? I mean, you're working at a job, you're doing, sounds like you're doing pretty well. What was that, event that happened where you're like, crap, I need to actually really make something, more of my life? Or, why would you want to go through all the trials, tribulations to become an entrepreneur and not know where the paycheck's going to come from?
Well, first I was a salesman, but I have always been a commission only salesman. Mm-hmm. So, I was basically in the situation, as far as that's concerned, not knowing where your next paycheck's coming from. I was basically in the same position as most entrepreneurs, just had very little or no control over the means of fulfillment, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on at the business I didn't have control over that I still had to deal with, like when shit didn't arrive on time and I called back to sell them another bunch of stuff, or when the magazine didn't come out right, or when the color was off, or when the direct mail hit 2 days late. I still had to deal with all that stuff, but I had no control over it. So that's one thing. The other thing, and of course the commission only salesperson goes back to that whole, I don't like being told what to do, right? If you're not giving me a salary, you can't tell me what to do. You just pay me when I bring in some work. But what got me started working, leaving my position as a salesperson and going in with this business, and then eventually being part owners of it, was purely economics. We started talking, and I was like, "What kind of small time shit are you talking about here? I mean, this is nothing." And he said, "No, it's not." He said, "It's not nothing. Look, let me show you something." And he showed me the numbers. And that business, by the way, since I'm not in that business anymore and will never be in that business, I will give you the secret of that business. It's all insurance work.
Uh-oh.
And this is literally the secret of the animal remediation business. It's all insurance work. And because of a glitch in the insurance estimating software, the cost of doing the work is astronomical. As far as what the insurance companies will pay, the actual cost of doing the work is nominal. So we were charging at one point, we charged $15, $16 a square foot to remediate a house. It would cost us maybe all in $5 a square foot. So you have a 2,500 square foot house with $10 a square foot profit. It's $25,000 profit on one job. So
insurance companies were paying that,
and insurance companies were paying the bill. Yeah. So it was a glitch in the system. We still had to find the houses. We still had to sell somebody on the idea. You'd be surprised how hard it is to sell somebody on filing an insurance claim. They don't want to hear about it. You have to really scare the hell out of them, as far as getting them to understand that work needs to be done. And then you have to really help them overcome the idea, because everybody says, "Oh, you don't want to file an insurance claim, because if you do that, then they're going to raise your rates." So they have images of paying more in the future. So we had to it's a different sale, but we had to really learn how to, we had to really figure out how to do the sale. So it's a more of a sale with people seeing us as the expert in a field. And then and of course they had their deductible they had to pay, and then being willing to have us move forward with their insurance company, as opposed to a sale that was based on getting them to write a check.
So if you were going to sit down and write whether it's a sales letter for, insurance or anything, what are some of the things that you would want to do? First of all, what's the first step in creating a multi-million-dollar sales letter like you've done in the past?
Identifying the prospect, identifying who is, who this is meant for. You want to use once again, to use the old Halbertism, you want a starving crowd. You want to have somebody who absolutely needs your product. Now you can get to those people in a million different ways. Sometimes you get to those people with just sometimes you get to those people by manual labor, right? So you say, well, what do you mean manual labor? Well, a telemarketing room is manual labor. You have 20 people and they just smile and dial all day, and they're going to hit a few prospects just on accident. And hopefully those few prospects that they hit, they're able to persuade them to buy. But that's manual labor. And then there's all different, you can do it with mail merging. You can do it with online marketing. You can do it by knowing, by sending a mass message out there, like in a newspaper display ad or a magazine display ad, but then selecting in the copy, using the copy to select the people who will respond. So there's all different kinds of ways of finding the market, but you have to identify the market in order that you can find them. It's also the only way. It's also the only way that you're going to write a really powerful hook, because here's the truth. What is going to appeal to, for example, what's going to appeal to, to my wife is not going to appeal to me. It's just not going to. So even though we're in the same, even though we're demographically very similar, I mean, obviously she's a woman, I'm a man, but other than that, we live in the same household. We have the same number of kids. We have the same household income. We have all the demographic flags, with the exception of gender, are identical. It still would not be a good idea to send a marketing message designed for her to me, because it's not going to get paid any attention to, no matter how good the hook is. It could be the greatest hook ever written, and if it comes to me, I'm going to throw it away, because it's like trying to catch a guppy with a hook meant for a shark, or trying to catch a shark with a hook meant for a guppy.
The number one thing you said is identify, who your market is, who that actual person is, who's going to get out their credit card, who's going to purchase this stuff.
And people don't go nearly deep enough on this. It's not just a matter of identifying your market.
So once they've identified it, what's the next step in the process?
Then you've got to find something in your product or service that is going to be interesting to the prospective marketplace. So when in not just interesting, you want to identify the benefit that they're going to get, but you've got to go deeper than just identifying the benefit. You've got to identify there's going to be a hook, or there's going to be something about what you're doing that is unusual. So contrast, perfect example. I mentioned John Carlton's one-legged golfer ad. That's a contrast. That's a contrast hook. So when you think of a golfer, right, you think of somebody who stands on two legs and centers their mass, and well, how can a one-legger golfer do it? He can't, because he's got to keep all his mass over one leg, right? So how can he can't have the same stance. So in the mind of a golfer, that's a substantial contrast. Now that's just an example, of course, but you've got to find, once you know who your market is, then you've got to find, and you've got to know what your benefits are for that market, but then you've got to find something interesting that is going to grab the attention of the market.
So you got my attention. So once you get the step number one, again, is identify the market. Step number two is what's going to grab that person's attention in the market.
Right.
And then how do you get them to give you massive amounts of money?
You sell to them. There's a lot of talk today about marketing funnels. There's nothing new about marketing funnels. They've been around for a long time. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are very complicated. But so you've got to identify how you want to sell to the prospect. So if you're selling to engineers, and your idea is that you're going to write a one-step ad that's going to sell them a $500 product that they're going to catch in a magazine, you have a hell of an uphill battle. On the other hand, if you're selling to car salesmen, and you think you're going to get them to spend time reading a 200-page in-depth book that gives all of the details back and forth, up and down, all the schematic, specific individual items of your process or steps of your process, whether, for a service or why your product works like it works or whatever, you think you're going to get them to get into deep detail like that, you've got a hell of an uphill battle. You see, the engineers want all the details. The car salesman is an impulse buyer. Now, obviously, I'm painting with a broad brush there. Yes, there are engineers who are impulse buyers, and yes, there are car salesmen who are extraordinarily, ridiculously detail-oriented. I'm painting with a broad brush, but you get the point. That
getting back to what you're saying again, identifying who that person is, and also underneath, what are that person's buying strategies is we're really getting at.
Exactly.
So addressing somebody who's a car salesman, like you're talking about, that's probably like a quick sale. Right.
And it may or may not be an ongoing sale. I mean, it may be a very profitable ongoing relationship, but you have things that you have to deal with, right? So people say, well, why would anybody try and sell to engineers? If I can sell to car salesmen and they buy straight off of the page, why would I bother selling to an engineer where I need a 3-step process that includes 4 phone calls and notice I said 3-step with 4 phone calls. That was a joke. But why would I go through, explaining everything in detail? Well, the answer, the question answers itself, because the car salesman is going to, as soon as he's distracted by somebody who's a little better at getting his attention than you, he's gone. But the engineer who you have to work and pound on and trying to get them to move away from you to go to a competitor is like pulling teeth, because now you're their guy. Once you sell to them, you're their guy or gal. So it's there are advantages and disadvantages to every market, but you've got to know that's really the most important thing with everything, is knowing who you're selling to.
No, absolutely. And the number one thing, guys, know who you're selling to, identifying the customer even deeper, like talking about knowing the hook, what's going to get them to get out their wallet and credit card, but also connecting with them so you understand their buying process on how they actually buy something, whether you're selling something to an engineer who's more calculating and they want to see the 15 different steps along the way. And at the same time, then you've got somebody who could be possibly a quick impulse buyer, and knowing who that person is going to be. So communicating that message effectively. Everett, I know it hasn't been like the easiest day in the sun all the time, and people just constantly, you didn't start out this way. What are some of the things that you learned along the way that made you who you are? What are some of the biggest, I don't like to say failure, I like to say feedback you've actually gotten along your lifestyle since becoming an entrepreneur? What's some of the biggest things that you're like, man, I wish I didn't have to go back and learn that lesson again?
That I am by nature a horrible, horrible manager. I don't want to have people tell me what to do. And by the same virtue, I don't want to tell other people what to do. It would be great if we could all just know our roles and go and do our job, and all be part of a team. That works great when you're collaborating with other entrepreneurs. Not so much when you're building a business that has employees. And look, it's not the employee's fault. It's just a different mindset. It just is who they are. But I had to come to the realization that I'm never going to be at the head of a 100-person organization. Because I just am not that interested and not at all good at trying to manage people.
There's a book you read recently. It's a book that I read. I'm a big fan. It's called Relentless Onions. And there was something you were sharing with me that really hit home on this. And I find that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And there's a lot of people out there who put up a big front, if you will, whether it's showing off their, it's not to say that it's cool if you can afford to go out and do that. And that's no problem with people who go out and legitimately own Lamborghinis and drive around, because that's their thing. But there's other people out there that put up these fronts. And I like to say, Matt Bazak talks about this on the side of, like, you've got people who are like steel on that side and people are plastic. And saying so, it's like, if you hold something up against somebody who's steel, it's not going to melt. But if you hold something up against something plastic, if you ask them 4 or 5 questions into whatever it is, and you realize they don't know what the hell they're even talking about. I know myself personally, there's a lot of lanes I could be in, but being on the mindset, working with people, that's my bread and butter on that side of it, helping people develop their messaging. That's something I love to do. So when you look at that, and you look at the people that are out there doing that, how do you feel when you see those people out there, and how did that book affect your life?
Well, the book uncovered the second motivation for me. And I say uncovered because it was always there, but it uncovered my second great motivation. I had, over the years, gotten, I had gotten just, whether it's social pressure or whether it was pressure that I put on myself or whether it was things that I was buying into, I had gotten this idea that business owners are supposed to do a particular thing. Entrepreneurs are supposed to build empires and build huge businesses and be the next Elon Musk and all this kind of stuff. And I've spent, a lot of years trying to do that. What that book, there was a phrase in the book that said, if somebody hasn't read the book, they should probably know there's 3 different levels of greatness in Tim Grover's estimation. And if you don't know who Tim Grover is, he was Michael Jordan's personal trainer. He also trained Scottie Pippen and a lot of really top level athletes. So he says that there's a cooler, a closer, and a cleaner, right? So the cooler is the among the great athletes. The cooler is the bottom level. And then the closer is the next level up. And the cleaner is the guy who is just, they're the best. Like no matter what, they're the anchor guy all the time. So then you take, so then he says there was a phrase in there where he referred to parents, or he said cleaner parents, I think was the phrase, but not cleaner like cleaning up the house. He was talking about parents who are cleaners at being parents. And it just clicked for me. That's it. I mean, I don't care about building big empires. That's my deal, is that I want to be a cleaner as a parent. So that's my second overriding motivation. 1, I don't like to be told what to do. And number 2, I want to be a cleaner as a father. So now as far as the kind of the other part that you were saying is people who are putting on the vapors, it really drove me away for a good while. It drove me away from this whole information success kind of business because, there's just so many people who are so full of shit. It's just stunning. It's just incredible. And, you see these guys get up on stage and they start blathering on about how, we did a $1 million launch. And I know good and damn well that their $1 million launch, that out of that launch after refunds and everything, that they made $100,000. Now, $100,000 for a day's work ain't bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but it ain't $1 million. And, why not just be proud that you made it? We did $1 million in sales and netted $100,000. There's nobody in the world who's going to think that's a bad day, but they just can't. They've got to push and they've got to make everything bigger than it is and talk about everything. You see, one of the things you'll notice with me is when I talk about gross sales, I'm talking about gross sales. I don't imply that I don't imply or suggest that all that money was mine. I'm very clear if I'm talking about this is, if I say this is how much we wrote, like one of my books, it's called the Pool Hustlers MBA, the 27 rules of hustling, the 27 rules of pool hustling I used to turn $1,000 in cash into $1 million in sales in 16 months. I didn't say $1,000 in cash into $1 million. I didn't get $1 million. We wrote $1 million. But I had a business to run, and the expenses came. It was $1 million in sales. I'm very honest, very upfront about that kind of stuff. And I started looking around and seeing all the people who weren't, and it really turns my stomach. And I feel bad for people who fall for that kind of shit and spend money with people who don't know what they're talking about. There's one guy right now advertising on Facebook about how to build a list without taking any money out of your pocket. Well, okay, right. So I'm down. Let's take a look at what the guy has to say. So I get on his webinar because even though I've been doing this a while, I'm always open to learning. I mean, there's always somebody who knows more than me. So so I spend a couple minutes on his webinar, and his big reveal is to build a list using self-liquidating lead generation. So you advertise something, people go to your website, opt in, and you sell them something. And what you sell them, the only reason that you sell them something is to offset the cost of marketing. So 1 out of 10 people buys it. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. 1 out of 10 people that lands on the page buys it, whatever. The idea is that that money that you collect then is used to pay the pay-per-click bill that's going to come from Facebook or YouTube or Google or whoever it is, right? Well, it makes perfect sense. But guess what? It's nothing new. Anybody who spends 10 minutes studying direct response knows the concept of a self-liquidating lead generation offer. And here's the really important part, okay? Here's the really important part. The biggest direct response companies in the world will roll something out, will roll a promotion out on a front end if it recoups 60 or 70% of the marketing costs. If it recoups 80% of the marketing cost, they'll start dumping piles of money, tens of thousands of dollars a day into marketing that to recoup 80% of the marketing cost. Now, here's my point. If we're talking about people who can afford to spend tens of thousands of dollars a day and only recoup 80% of that, they can hire the best marketing people and the best copywriters and the best of the best of the best in every aspect of their business. So why, if they're thrilled with 80%, why do I think that I'm going to be able to, on a repeatable and regular basis, create a self-liquidating lead generation offer? It's not that damn easy. And a little product, a guy's product or a guy's coaching group is not going to teach you how to do it. Experience and spending money is going to teach you how to do it. But yet you have thousands of people, $700-800. The guy claims to get almost 1,000 new names a day on his email list. And they're all looking for this unicorn, for this magic unicorn that shits ice cream. And it's not out there.
I think I have one of those in the bathroom, though.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice, right? It's not out there. It's just not there. You
have the squatty potty.
Yes, you have to. The only way to do it is first you got to know it's possible, and then you've got to test and test and test and test and test and test, and that's expensive. But if you have the kind of money to do that kind of testing, the chances are pretty good that you already have an idea. So this guy is not going after. This guy's not going after people who are experienced direct response marketers. He's going after newbies, and he's selling them this magic unicorn, and they're paying good money to get access to this magic unicorn, which is bullshit. That frustrates the hell out of me. I hate seeing that kind of stuff because it's just not. There's no magic wand. It's just not that easy.
Wait a minute. Unicorns don't exist?
No, they don't. No, well, years ago, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey grafted a goat horn onto a horse. So, that existed with little help of science.
I thought I watched a video of this guy talking about the unicorn that's out there. It was a guy talking about women. You've seen that one, right?
Mm-mm.
No, it's pretty good. If you Google how to find a unicorn, woman unicorn. I think that's out there.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I know exactly the one that. Oh, yeah. That's hysterical. That's hysterical. Yeah. Yeah, I've said for years, you got to decide whether you want a crazy woman who's great in bed or a sane woman who is okay in bed. Because crazy women are. There's. They get the guys because why would anybody stay with a crazy I talk with a guy and he starts telling me how insane, how crazy his girl is. And people say, well, why do you stay with her? She's so crazy. Well, I know goddamn well why he stays with her. Because there's only one reason to stay with a crazy chick.
That's why he's a heavyweight hooker, folks.
Yeah.
All right. So if there was one lesson you could, kind of write a letter to your younger self and say, hey, I wish I could have shared this with myself as I was starting out in my entrepreneur career or at a certain point in your life, maybe at a low point, what would you tell that younger Everett?
I'd say have more faith in have more faith in what you know, because even though you don't know everything, you still know more than a lot of people. There's still a lot of people out there who are not where you're at. And you can still bring value to herds and herds and herds of people. Herd might be a bad word, but you understand what I mean. You could bring value to a tremendous amount of people's lives, even though you're not at the level of the people you're learning from. You're still far above the level of people who haven't learned anything.
I'm gonna put a blatant plug in right now for our boy Anthony DiClemente. I know
Tony D,
baby. I know you got a chance to work with Tony D a little bit this past year. Just share a quick synopsis, quick little story about how you guys got started and what happened with your body after that.
Well, I mean, you introduced us, and he needed some writing done, and we worked out an arrangement where I helped him put some polish on a book that he had, and he helped me with some diet and exercise things. Just as a little background, I was close to 150 pounds overweight, and close to 150 pounds overweight. And no matter what I did, I couldn't lose weight. And I'm talking about, I mean, I could sprint, I exercise, I could restrict my diet, I could cut carbs out, I could do everything. And nothing worked. I just didn't lose weight no matter what. And not only that, but I kept adding weight on, more and more weight on. And so I mean, Tony and I were on the phone Anthony and I were on the phone for Skype Skype for hours, and we're going over everything. I mean, he's going into minute detail, giving me a lot of great information, going into minute detail about everything. And I had to go. So we continued, and later that day we got back on the phone for another few hours. And finally I commented that when I ate wheat, I felt like I might be sensitive to gluten, because when I ate wheat, I didn't feel good. And he just focused in on that, and lo and behold, I have a handful of food allergies. And when I eat that stuff, I blow up and I get fatter, and I have autoimmune reactions. And this is stuff. I mean, I have psoriasis, right? Which basically little patches of dry skin. But it's an autoimmune disease. Well, I went to the dermatologist for it, right? And he said, okay, here's a steroid. We didn't talk about causes of it or anything. He looked at it and said, yeah, it's psoriasis. Here's the way we treat it. So I had a little steroid cream that I'd put on it, and occasionally, but I hate using prescription drugs, so I really didn't use it very often. Well,
what was the result at the end of the day? What everyone wants to hear. How much weight did you release off your body?
50 pounds last year, and that does not take into account probably a little bit of muscle growth that I had from working out, so I'm looking to do, but from the beginning of the year, I'm looking to do another 100 pounds this year, which I believe I'll be able to do. I did backtrack a little over Christmas, but I think sometimes that happens. But yeah, I mean, so I'm steady dropping weight off. And the big thing is that I'm staying away from these foods that I'm allergic to. I'm not sticking straight with Anthony's dietary recommendations. It basically because I don't want to. I mean, let's just cut through the shit. I don't, but I am. But listen, I mean, this is not something that's been going on for 6 months.
Yeah,
this is something that's been going on for 10 years. I've been putting on weight for 10 years, and so his stuff was amazing. The time I spent with him was amazing, life-changing, literally.
Yeah.
If I was looking to be an athlete, to be an elite athlete for anything, or I was just fat and needed to take off some weight, or I wanted to be that guy who's at the head of a huge company that you're going to have to, do the 10x grind for. I mean, Tony would be in my back pocket. There's no question about it. I don't mean that in an insulting way, but I mean, like, he would be my secret weapon for any of that stuff.
I got to say, for myself personally, I was able to release about 30 pounds, and I put on a bunch of muscle. So it's probably even more of the body fat side of things. And mine was working, and got some advice from Tony on that side of it too, about eating the right way. And mine was weed as well, the gluten side of things. And I used to break out too with my skin and stuff, especially on my feet. Would just get nasty looking, my hands at times too. And I couldn't figure it out. And same thing, the doctor would give me some steroid cream, went to the doctors and stuff. And just when I know you and I have that mutual thread connection with Tony. And
I got to tell you, it's not only just about losing weight. My wife was having a hell of a time because she was just had anxiety up to here about everything. Like she was nothing. If anything happened that got out of she would just almost go into a panic attack. And Anthony made a recommendation for a B supplement, a really high quality B supplement. That's not real expensive, like $20 a bottle. It's like cheap. And, but this high quality, and it, between that and another recommendation he made for some CBD oil, it has like changed her life. She's, she's back to being somebody who's, who can be relaxed, and she doesn't, she doesn't freak out about everything. If there's a little bit of, a little bit of resistance or things don't go exactly right. And it was a nutritional deficit. It wasn't that she was being nasty or ugly or hateful. She just literally her body did not have the
prescription medication. She needed to have extra ones or.
No, we don't do prescriptions unless it's absolutely necessary.
Cortisone cream to put anywhere and.
No, but I mean, seriously, his stuff is not just if you're fat and you want to lose some weight. His stuff is if you want to get peak performance mentally or physically in any way. I can't say enough about Anthony. I think everybody should be contacting him or looking him or getting his book. He has a book if you get on.
Biohacker's Guide. I got mine.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to give a blatant plug for him. Appreciate him so much, what he's done both for me and my man over here, Everett. So, Everett, where can people get on the newsletter? I know you got a cool newsletter with the hustlers, gamblers, and entrepreneurs out there. Where could they learn more about how to create heavyweight hooks?
Heavyweight hooks will be released this month. I was hoping to have it by the 15th. It's probably not going to happen by the 15th. But Heavyweight Hooks is actually one of my books, and it'll be released this month. It's I believe I counted them up this morning. I think it's going to be my 20th book on sales and marketing. 17 of those books are in a series that people can get for free if they want. If they go to everettfarnell.com. And you'll see it's right there. There's 17 ebooks that you sign on to the email list and you get them. If you want to skip that, if you're a coach, consultant, author, something like that, because that's more for bricks and mortar businesses, then you can go to everettfarnell.com/Daryl, and you will find with a capital D. And you'll find another thing that I will make available to listeners of the podcast here. It's a list of books, 40, 50 books, something like that I have read. They're ebooks, but they're actually books. I'm actually giving you the book, not just a list, but it's the actual book that I've read over the years on influence. And some of the stuff dates back, some of the stuff dates back a long time, 1800s and early 1900s. And that stuff is pure gold, because here's the deal. When people wrote books back then, they didn't write books to promote themselves. I mean, they wrote books to transfer knowledge. And those books, they're not written in the easiest, funnest way to read, but man, if you get through them, it's just pure gold. So if you're an author, or if you're in the coaching and consulting business or something, you don't have a real bricks and mortar type of business, then go to everettfarnell.com/Daryl with a capital D, and you'll have the opportunity to get all those books, which will work for bricks and mortar businesses as well. Don't get me wrong, but the 17 secrets series that I wrote is going to be more applicable to bricks and mortar businesses, whereas the other one at /Daryl is going to be more applicable to coaches and consultants and these sorts of folks.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Everett. And I'll go ahead and post that on the link on the website too.
I appreciate it.
And guys, hit up Everett. He's an amazing copywriter. He's helped me out with a lot of stuff. And he's able to get inside your mind and pull out those heavyweight hooks to get people to stop and see what you're looking at. And that's the number one thing, like you talked about. Identify who that market is. Dive deeper into like who they are, what's buying strategies, they have, and what's that hook that's going to get them to stop. So you really got to identify them in the process. Thanks, Everett, for being on today, and I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, and thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Cheers.